Hello everyone and welcome to Game 2 in a series between Mouse, Strelok, and NightEnd. Game 2 taking place here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. NightEnd spawning as the blue Protoss player on the south side of the map. Meanwhile, Mouse, Strelok spawning on the north side of the map, this time as the red Terran. So Terran versus Protoss. I would be surprised if any of them even just try to decide to change their races, as this game is now underway. Strelok continuing to mine, just go back and forth, nothing too out of the ordinary or nothing too interesting to note at this stage in the game. Probe production will halt for just a moment as a pylon is currently being warped in, but you can see that it's not going to halt for very long, as there you go, it just continues once again, getting about a 4 or 5 second lead. Now Strelok back over here and will be able to complete the supply depot, and we'll see if he builds his barracks perhaps over here, probably down over here, to make sure that there is no proxy play. Now NightEnd not opting for scouting right after the pylon, so he will have a little bit of an economic lead, but he won't know too much about what Strelok is doing until he gets into the base. But many of the times, a lot of players ask me, when should you scout? Scouting really depends on when you want to sacrifice a little bit of your economy early game. The reason why NightEnd is opting to scout now as opposed to earlier is that early inside your opponent's base, there's not much you can really reveal of your opponent's strategy. All you'll really see is the supply depot and the barracks 95% of the time, and if you see that, you still don't know if he's trying to go for a quick Banshees, mass MMM, quick Hellions. There's still a lot of options that he can really try to go for. You can see that SCV will be rallied out of this location in just a moment and begin to do some scouting. He can see basically there is one barracks, the refinery is up, Marine now being trained, and the SCV just continuing to wander around. It looks like that SCV will be doing his own scouting as the command center, or as a supply depot now going to be built over here. So the supply depot is now being built. The probe will be able to get some damage over, but I believe a Marine should be able to come out in just a moment. NightEnd, will he be able to shoot down that probe? No, unable to, as the SCV goes back to work. SCV now wandering around, will be able to come inside the base of NightEnd. NightEnd pretty much training up a Zealot, getting that Cybernetics core, going to open up with another pylon in just a moment. Just as this SCV is now wandering around on the inside of the base, SCV will be able to see pretty much everything it wants and needs to see. And at this time, we should also be getting, there you go, chrono boost on the warp gate research and on that gateway. Chrono boosting on the gateway allows that Stalker to come out in only 32 seconds instead of 42, allowing preventing that SCV from being able to scout 10 seconds more. As soon as this SCV leaves, I assume that we are going to have either an assimilator or a gateway placed down next, as a Zealot and a probe now make their way out. A Reaper also being trained, so it is going to be double Marines into a Reaper, and this is a fairly common strategy that I've already seen. And now the Marines are going to come over here and try to deal some damage towards that Zealot, need to run away. The probe may be able to start blocking them, and oh, the probe blocked them for just a quick second, and oh, the probe also gets shut down as well. So that one early, the Reaper now out, is going to try to perhaps do a fast expansion. Yeah, it is going to be a Reaper fast expand. The Reaper very important in trying to deal with that early Zealot, and then because it is not a Marauder, you start off with an additional 50 minerals earlier to build that command center there. So Mouse, Strelok opening up with a Reaper fast expansion here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. There's that second gateway, followed by an assimilator as well, and now a robotics facility. So it is going to be 2 gate into Robo, pretty much, as this Reaper just dancing around. There are going to be a Stalker and a Zealot guarding off this location here as an expansion already coming in. The SCV just taking a look at that Nexus there, and now perhaps going to get some damage, perhaps trying to buy some time, but the Stalker and the Zealot don't fall for the trick at all. The Reaper now going to try to come in. One probe has been taken down. The Reaper needs to try to get the heck out of there. Is it going to be able to get another kill? Yes, gets 2 kills, sacrifices 50 gas for essentially 50 minerals in that exchange. Both players lost 100 resources, but those probes will never be able to mine again. You can see a reactor currently being built over here, perhaps another tech lab here. A very standard build coming in from Strelok once again, as we are upgrading to an orbital command. There you can see that there is the expansion down over here by NightEnd already, so both players are going to get a very strong economy, as this sentry now being warped in. Also a 3 gate. So this is a 3 warp gate with a robotics facility now training, and a Stalker both activating these Xel'Naga watchtowers here. Engineering bay being placed down, perhaps for that infantry upgrades as well. It does need an armory in order to continue to do those upgrades for tier 2 or level 2 upgrades, as we now have that orbital command starting to train up some SCVs. SCVs being transferred over from the main base, transferring over 12 SCVs exactly in order to split up, I believe just split up those SCVs pretty much down the middle, as the SCVs are now going to continue and go back to work. A probe now will be able to make it straight inside the base, and now in come the Marauders. The Marauders do not have concussive shell though, so they're not going to be able to slow down any of those stalkers. Level 1 weapons upgrade now being researched, combat shield and stim pack being researched, as well as Strelok perhaps trying to press his a little bit of an early army advantage. 900 versus 825. The issue is going to be that there are 3 sentries now. So 3 sentries will be able to block down get a lot of force fields down and shut down much of that Terran infantry army, as the Marauders instead turning around to destroy the destructible rocks and perhaps is deciding to establish up a 3rd base. If he can force his opponent to establish a 3rd base, or excuse me, if Strelok can establish a 3rd base, he will continue that economic advantage and perhaps just be able to out macro his opponent one more time. Concussive shells still not yet researched. We are also almost supply locked for Strelok. Strelok unable to train up any 3 food unit, but getting 2 additional supply depots will be able to recover from that very easily. Also getting a reactor on that factory. And I'm still waiting for concussive shells. No double refineries now being placed down finally at the natural expansion, so that will help get some additional gas and perhaps get and perhaps allow him to finally research and get the level 1 armor upgrades as well. 3 harvesters, both sides getting 3 harvesters, and NightEnd and Strelok sitting in their bases and pretty much waiting to see what they're gonna want and be able to do. Double supply depot back over here, currently preventing any units from being able to warp in or walk in along that backside, as a Marauder here and also another Marauder here. Assimilator, a Nexus, yeah, pretty standard slow game. Another command center being built, obviously, in order to establish this expansion here. You can see that Colossus are also going to be trained as well and going for that double Stargate. So this is pretty much a repeat of the last strategy and that NightEnd used against Strelok on Shakura's Plateau. We'll see if it bodes better for him this time around, as there's currently no weapons upgrade with no forge. The Colossus doesn't really slice through a Marauder army nearly as quickly, just because of the amount of splash damage. And the level 2 or the level 1 weapons upgrade allows a Colossus to deal 4 extra damage, and then when it hits a group of 3 to 5 units, that starts to add up very quickly. 20 additional damage is a lot when you are able to hit that many units. 120 damage per attack. Very, oh no, wait, 34 times 5. Yeah, 170 damage per attack. That is a lot of damage to be done by 1 unit that also is able to attack and move, and also effectively have a siege range attack with the extended thermal lance range. Phoenix is now being added into this group as well, so it's going to be 1 robotics facility training up Colossus, double Phoenixes. You can see that the Colossi are already standing tall. Vikings now being added into Strelok's army, so it is going to be a mass barracks once again. So a lot of production units coming in from Strelok, and the concussive shells have been completed, and now going for the armory in order to get the level 2 weapons upgrade on the engineering bay. Command center will be able to land in just a moment, perhaps getting a planetary fortress, and Strelok really relying on Terran infantry. We'll see if this works out for him very well at all, as the SCVs, many of them, 16 SCVs now being transferred over, a mule also being called over, and this 3rd base is going to give Strelok such a large advantage now in terms of economy, that Strelok should feel very, very comfortable trying to exchange bases. Army-wise, NightEnd still with a larger gas army, not as much of a mineral army. As this game continues further, 1 Marine able to quickly scout out this expansion over here, sees the Nexus, sees the pylon, as there's also an observer here taking a look at the natural expansion, or the high yield expansion, in the center of the map. one factory, also acting as a little bit of an early warning system against any units that try to come in this side. There is one Marauder over here as well, so that will help out tremendously. Are the Colossus going to walk straight through the center? Yes, they are going to walk through the center and see that the factory is there. Factory now suffering some damage as well. Colossus will not be able to do that much to that factory, as the factory just going to park itself in the middle. And now a 5,000 mineral army versus 5,000. Both sides are going to try to battle it out to see who will be able to exchange their armies much more efficiently. Strelok now with a 2-1 advantage on his units compared to the non-upgraded Stalkers, Zealots, and Colossus. I also don't see that many sentries in the group, so force fields are not going to come into play that much, and it almost feels like NightEnd could have been doing something a little bit differently and perhaps a little bit better in order to get ahead with this army. Sentries help tremendously with that Guardian Shield and also with that force field preventing any serious retreat. Also the Colossus, it pushes units much more closely together, allowing those Colossus to get much more splash damage as well. Down goes another down goes another command center there, as we should probably be getting destructible rocks there, as we should be getting a Nexus here in just a moment. A fourth command center now being built by Strelok. So Strelok hasn't even yet destroyed these rocks and is already deciding to expand once more. He's already sitting at 2,000 or 200 over 200 food, and he is now getting into about almost 1,500 mineral army bank. And now he's just gonna move out, most likely knowing that he does have a serious advantage in terms of his economy. You can see now that Strelok is currently ahead 200 over compared to 187. NightEnd currently behind, and now in come the Phoenixes. Marauders and Marines are trying to battle it out at both sides and suffering a lot of damage. The Marauders now attacking pylons instead of attacking other units, but there are so many Colossus as the Phoenixes are still able to absorb a lot of that damage. Stalkers are now continuing to warp in, and since the Colossus have not been taken down, Strelok, even though he had 1-1 upgrades on his Marauders and Marines, completely loses his army in that battle there. More Vikings are going to be trained, more Marauders are going to be trained, but the Colossus at this point can simply just, I believe, attack move into the planetary fortress and almost win. All he needs is a handful of Stalkers in order to complete it, and he does have a couple of Phoenixes already. The Phoenixes can easily offer sight into this location here, and the Colossus, if they just wanted to, can walk straight up this cliff and then shut down much of the production of Strelok. More missile turrets now getting shot down as well. Stalkers absorbing much of that damage, and the Colossus should be able to just focus down this planetary fortress very, very easily. Stalkers need to back off. Marauders and Marines are trying to engage, and Colossus coming in. Multiple Phoenixes now coming in to engage. Vikings are now getting shut down. And down they go. There was, I believe, a Ghost with an EMP shockwave depleting all the shields, but it's still not going to matter, as these Ghosts are not going to be able to deal all that much. Vikings now coming in as well, but down goes the natural expansion, and Strelok, who had such a large lead and such a large economic lead and a better teched army, and a better upgraded army, 2-1, unable to take the win, and NightEnd able to just attack move with 7 Colossus, Stalkers, and Phoenixes for the win. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between Mouse Strelok and NightEnd here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. Stay tuned for Game 3 in what I now know is a best of 3 matchup.